Welcome back to Cow Daily 007 on the palindromic day of, what is it, 2022? 202? I don't even know.
It
No,
is.
it's 20. That's it. There we go. We're in the game. So welcome to the palindrome. We've got fun and games. That's not... We've got people joining the live. Let me know in the chat if you're around, as ever.
Yes.
That'd be really cool. Get the comments in there. On this week's show, we have a section on the ever-growing anti-work movement. We want to dispel some myths about it, but also give a bit of an overview about why people are suddenly becoming, not suddenly, but more and more becoming anti-work and what that actually means for society. Also, we're going to do a little bit on Darren Grimes and GBBs or GB News, which is GBBs, man, isn't it?
It is
a bit of a mad one. And then that nice wet cloth to the sick brow of society. That is positive news, as ever. We might cover a few other bits and bobs, really, but that's the general flow of this week. Alice, before I ask you how you're getting on, there's one thing that I just want to throw up on the screen.
Okay.
Back in the game. Back in the top 10. Can you even believe this?
No, I can't. And every time I look at it, it's like, I think, yeah, that's really cool. But I also get a little bit hysterical because I have anxiety and I'm quite self-conscious.
It's strange,
it's really, really strange. But no, it's mint. It's mint. And anything that kind of puts a middle finger up to the likes of Nick Robinson and Sarah Vine is a good thing.
Just a bit. I mean, like Sarah Vine, for people who don't know, is Michael Gove's soon-to-be ex-partner. I don't know if the divorces went through. And her daily female podcast is well behind us. Get back in the bin where you belong. Now, I didn't expect us to chart for months, right? And we haven't been putting the audio out for anything more than, is it a week? Less than a week. Yeah, it's just 6 days. And we went into number 29. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. Then the next day we went to number 17. I was like, whoa, no way, top 20. And then at the weekend, we went into the top 10. The highest position we've been is number 6. And we have actually been above Hard Talk. And Hard Talk has blown my mind because I watch Hard Talk. Like, it's on BBC News 24, whatever they call it these days. And I actually quite like Hard Talk, to be fair. So the fact that we've been above them in the iTunes chart blows my mind. Not Apple Podcasts, it's called these days. Shows how long it's been since I've been in the audio podcast game, because it was iTunes the last time. So what are you making of this? I mean, like, what are we even going to do with this knowledge?
I think it's absolutely hysterically funny. You know, as I said, you know, the likes of like Nick Robinson, you've got the BBC and kind of people checking up on like who is ahead of them in the charts, and they basically like flick over and it's, you know, there's like Voltarine dysnomia hiss sort of sat behind me and me next to my Nicodor. Just chatting about the news. It's hysterically absurdly funny, and I love it.
It's absurdly funny. Like, I'm recording in effectively Escape, and behind us that wall, when we moved in here, it had black mold in it, and that's why there was a bit of a delay starting all of this, because I had to warm the room and scrub the bloody thing every day to get rid of it with a mask on. Thankfully, I had plenty of those, so or in Lake Flynn. But I'm buzzing, man. I just didn't expect it for months, and I just want to say thank you to everybody out there who's downloaded, subscribed, give it a 5-star review, shared it with their pals, been really supportive with the comments. Like, just like, there's been this overwhelming like flood of love from people. There was a lovely comment today on one of the YouTube videos as well, just saying really great to see the cow back up and running, really enjoying the conversations and things. And that means a lot to Alice. It's like, it's just a really nice thing, because you know yourself, we've all been locked away for a couple of years. So to have that kind of feedback coming from people, it just a couple of times, it's like really touched me heart, you know. So all right, cheers everybody. And really, we're on the mission. This is the mission, right? Listen to this. Nick Robinson has been number 1 for a long time in the category, right? So what we want to do is overturn his dark empire. For people who don't know, he's the BBC political editor. We are the only independent podcast in the top 10 as well. They're all BBC ones, and then things that are signed to podcast networks, which obviously have big backing behind them and money. Because since we like podcasts now are just like, there's so many of them as well. So that's why I thought, well, we're not gonna get like chart anytime soon. There's gonna be a lot of graft this, and it has been a lot of graft to just get it at this point. But the fact that we're the only independent one and we're recording from our respective skips is unbelievable. So like I just can't quite believe it. Like, so if people would like to get behind, if you could like go on iTunes and Spotify, we're on Spotify for the first time ever. Give a nice 5-star review, leave some nice words on there. Also, if you could share it, tell your friends, because the BBC are the BBC. They have a huge marketing budget. The BBC exists and everybody knows what the BBC is. So by proxy, people are going to go, I'll click on that. It says BBC. Whereas with us, not so much. We're the complete and utter opposite of it. But shouts to all independent media out there. We're really trying to like do something where we bring that plurality. I've been teaching myself how to say that word properly because it gets lost at the top of my mouth. Plurality of media in the UK, and I mean, this is a global chart as well. So, quite amazing, really. Don't even really know what to say to it because I can't even quite believe that it occurred within a week. And we've also got some other great news which I can't announce yet, but that'll be announced in March. There's a slight embargo on this news, but I'm really looking forward to sharing it with you. So, stay tuned for all of that one. Also, if you could subscribe on YouTube, because we're going to be putting a big push into it. I'm moving on from Shetland next week, as you know. Others might not know, and then it's going to take a little while for to build a new studio and all that. There'll be no gap though. I've timed me travels, so I'll be available 7:00 Tuesday night, and I'll be sitting on on the move with a laptop, uploading things and ensuring that that's the case. Also, mentioned the BBC have lots of funding. We do not. So if you want to become a funder of independent media, then please go to patreon.com/cowdaily. That's patreon.com/cowdaily. We need you to get behind it. I really think we can do something pretty miraculously incredible here. And if we were doing this full time with Danny, sky's the limit, because we're all grafters. We all really want to push this forward, and it's not about Milk the Cow or us or whatever. It's about the information. There's another comment that somebody said the other day, and that really touched me heart. And it was like, it's nice to see things that people actually care about and mean stuff to their lives being spoken about in the way that it's being spoken about. I paraphrase that, but that's basically the general vibe. And I was like, right, it was the right comment at the right time, and my bottom lip started going. I was like, yeah, that's what I want too. But like, you know how hard we've worked at this just to get it to this point, and it's like, it's just really validating, I suppose. And the fact that like people, you're saying these things and they want these things, and then the proof's in the pudding. I mean, right there in front of you on the screen. Really happy about it. So also as well, shouts to the Milk the Cow private chat forum, and thanks to Joanne last week actually telling her that it was because my notifications weren't on for the Discord, that people were in there having a conversation. I've loved that. That's what the internet should be about in terms of how people relate to each other. It's supportive. Everybody's really canny, and it's becoming and is everything that I hoped that it would be. So if you didn't give a shit about the podcast or anything, join the Patreon so you can become part of that, because it's class. Or even if you give a shit about both, come and join me, because I love hitting the app button for that. Whereas sometimes with Facebook, I get anxiety when I hit the Facebook app button, and that was one of the personal reasons we spoke about on the podcast before, about why the private chat forum becomes a thing. And I think, because it's set up the way that it's set up, it's like people are like in there really wanting to build that community. And it's like, they're investing in that as well. They're investing in the growth of this. And bloody hell, what a great springboard after the first week of the audio going out, and the YouTube's growing as well. And thanks everybody for the patience that you've shown, as well as we've like learned all these new skills, and that's enabled to get it to this point already. Sky's the limit, really. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think I said to you earlier as well, it kind of this, like when we do this on Tuesday nights, it almost feels like a social event for me, probably because I don't go anywhere now.
Yeah.
I really love the comments that people leave, like as we're doing the live stream, you know, kind of reading them out and and getting a chance to kind of hear what other people think about it, apart from me and you. But also, as you say, the private chat is just, it's becoming a really, really nice group. Lovely.
Brilliant, innit? I'll take
Yeah.
some comments from people at this point. TJ Stockhouse, lovely Skeletor, like the thumbnail there. I used to have Snake Mountain growing up as well, TJ. It was a belter. Have I ever told the Snake Mountain? I might have told the Snake Mountain He-Man story, but I'll tell you it again. My brother, right? TJ, I'm going to read your comment out soon, but I'll tell you the story because I've just seen Skeletor there. My brother and he had planned a Chewits feast, right? We used to get a packet of Chewits after school every day for my mum and dad. Probably wouldn't happen now; it'd just rot the teeth. You know what I mean? But anyway, I was chowing down with their milk teeth, and it was like, my brother was like, "Oh, I'll hide them here in Castle Grayskull, right? And then we'll have a Chewits feast in 2 weeks." I was like, "Belter." Fast forward 2 weeks, it comes to the day of the Chewits feast, right? I'm running home from school. Get there, right? Drawbridge open. Chewits, wrappers everywhere. My brother turns around like some evil Skeletor-esque and looks at us and smiles and goes, "Mom, he's eating all the Chewits." Like, I got grounded because he grassed us up for something I hadn't even done. I was like, I haven't. I ended up being so aghast at the sense of injustice that I jumped on the out the window onto the bathroom roof, jumped off this. I was about 8 or 9 years old at the time and ran away. You know, them times where you run away for half an hour and everybody's freaking out.
Yeah.
It was one of them. And I think that's what's, forget the miners' strike or anything like that. It was that really triggered my sense of injustice in life. And we must fight against them.
What radicalized you?
Down with the evil forces of Brother Skeletor, Beast Man. So TJ's podcast, TJ's comment, love the podcast. I've always supported it and so glad you've come to the dark side that is Spotify. Us too, TJ, it's a new thing, Spotify. We've never tried it. It's really nice to see people have already given it loads of like 5-star reviews, because I think you've got to get a certain amount before it displays them on the screen. So they're displayed on the screen. So thank you to everybody who's on the Spotify dark side. Thank you, TJ, for your lovely comment, my friend. Absolutely belter. Jez Hunt, King of the Cow there. Doom with Robinson, up the coup. Indeed, sir. Indeed. I've got time for one more. Let's have a look. All got to start somewhere, says Joanne. Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, obviously, there was a level of anxiety when we decided that we were going to come back, and it couldn't have been a more positive experience, really, could it? So, and that's down to the people like yourself, Joanne, and others. A gentleman here with a lovely flag there, anti-fascist action. How ye? I resemble Ram Man. Nice one,
He was one of my favorite characters, actually, when I used to watch it.
Bouncing around and nutting people and that.
Mint.
We've all done it at the end of the day. We've all done it. Anyway, let's bring it back to full screen. How you doing, mate? You good?
Yeah,
tell us things.
I'm pleased to report I still have a roof after the weather.
Storms down. Like, we didn't get them up here, man. Like, just for once, didn't get them. We've got them now. Like, so I mean,
it did get pretty wild. I think on the most recent ones, I think our friends down south got hit a lot harder on this one, whereas I think when it was like the other way around. But yeah, it was really bad, but I think because Arwen was so horrendous, like where I am, I'm like, it's average. Not too bad. Only 15 wheelie bins going down the street today.
Really, it looked terrible, like some of the footage I saw. But there's no trees here because they all got blown down ages ago, and then the Vikings used them all for boats and that. So there's like, you get them in certain people's gardens and that, and like there's some in the garden here, but they're all like on a diagonal because the wind just comes off the sea and just clips them. So they're like quite stunted, and they're all on a diagonal. They all look like windswept. There's certain like pine trees that are up there, and they look like sort of like big bonsais because they're all like sort of off squint like that. Weird. Very strange. Very
I
strange.
never knew there was such a lack of trees on Shetland.
No, did you not know that?
No.
I mean, I thought there was none whatsoever, but there is, like I say, in people's gardens and that are more inland. But you're only about 3 miles away from the sea here, so it's quite kind of like long and thin.
Yeah,
you know.
I have.
So, should we talk about some anti-work?
I would love to. Yes.
Well, I'll do a quick explainer. Anti-work movement is something that sprang up and went like quite viral on Reddit. So it's our anti-work for Reddit people. Go there. It's within about 6 months from like a small subreddit to like this massive global movement. And what the top and bottom of it is that people are resigning from jobs that they don't really want to do anymore. And like, people have traditionally took jobs that they might never have wanted to do because for various reasons, but because of the cost of living crisis and just generally things of that nature, a lot of these jobs aren't covering like people's incomings and outgoings. So they're basically going, well, sod this. Like, and I think as we explore this further, it's really quite a problem. It's quite a problem for capitalism, but it's quite a problem like across the board. So I'll just hoist some slides up there. So you sent me this, and for all our audio people out there, it's a tweet, and somebody's captioned it. Nah, this is one of the most invasive things I've ever seen. And it's a note that's stuck on the door of the toilet at somebody's workplace. And it's basically saying that if you're in the bathroom for more than 10 minutes, a smell check will be completed to ensure employees are not sitting there on your phone. If it does not stink, employees' names will be reported to the office. So it's all those like aggressions that have like been like people have just sucked up in the workplace, innit? And now because the wages are not reflective of what the cost of living is, people are just like, nah, mate, we're good. So there's another tweet here, but I'll bring you in after this one, and we've got a couple more. We're honestly a generation of people who feel bad for calling in sick because we're made to feel like a company having staff is more important than our mental and physical health. So Alice, my good friend, tell us what do you think of all of this?
I've got to say, I know it could, you were just saying there how it could potentially cause problems, but whenever I see anything to do with the anti-work movement, I'm kind of like egging it on a little bit. I think because I've worked in the hospitality industry for so long, and that is really, really draining. And I think a lot of the things that I'm seeing now in that Reddit, in that subreddit, is a lot of people from the hospitality industry who are just saying, do you know what, like, I'm not going to be treated like that, and kind of moving on to other jobs, because, there's been, quite a lot of work available recently. And it seems to like be particularly in America that, and I have not got tired yet of like seeing screenshots of people like quitting their job via text message and things like that, and like being really, really sassy. I know it's the internet, and I know, obviously some of them are not going to be genuine, but I like to think that even if just a small percentage of them are, then it's really, really endearing, because it does, there are certain kinds of work, and that can be one of them, whereas if you've got a horrible manager or a really toxic work culture, it does absolutely take everything out of you. And often it's really, really low paid as well. And the kind of stuff, particularly when you're young, that you're expected to put up with is absolutely ludicrous. I mean, I look back now when I was like, kind of working in those jobs when like from the age of 15, really. And you just think of the sexual harassment, the just general abuse that you get from the public over the tiniest little thing. And I think, it's good that it's seen as completely acceptable, to not only to do that, but to do it with your middle finger held up as you're doing it. Well done to anybody who's doing that. But as I've always said, it's not not a phrase I made up, but one I see quite a lot, and one that I always repeat is, we're not here to pay bills and die.
No.
And more, it seems like that is what we are expected to do. You know, you see people doing longer commutes every day, you know, just to go to work. You know, people working really antisocial hours, with technology kind of being better than what it used to be. Almost people being expected to be approachable at any time of day or night, really.
Yeah.
You know, people getting text messages in the middle of the night, you know, telling them that they have to come into work at 11 o'clock the next day. Well, no, you don't. You know, and I think people are pushing back. I think there's a number of things that I said. There's always been an anti-work movement as such, you know, for centuries, I think. But I think what we're seeing now, there's a few factors that have kind of catalysted it in the way that it has, the pandemic being one. Particularly people who were able to work from home and realizing that actually they were getting a significant chunk of their life back from not having to commute in the way that they were. I was one of them people.
But what about Pret and sandwiches and coffee?
Well, you know, I know there are, you know, when we look at like small businesses who might have like a little cafe or a sandwich shop who were maybe like really hard hit, you know, from workers who were buying things at lunchtime. I think you know, even if people weren't working from home, they'd be suffering anyway, because the cost of living has gone up so much, as we've talked about already, that people are kind of taking in their own pack lunches anyway, even when they are going into the office. Really, the whole reason they want us back into the office is because, you know, commercial office space landlords are starting to shit themselves. Because there has been, you know, and I know of a few places that have gone, you know, they don't have a lot of money, who are going, all right, okay, we can do it this way now. Why are we paying shitloads of rent on this office when actually we don't really need it and we can spend it on better things?
Definitely. I mean, there's so many like places in the center of town, like ex-office buildings, and Newcastle. There's what's the name of that place? Something House. It's not Bamborough House. It's the one over the road from that. But anyway, they you can hire like office space for an hour, a couple of hours, like meeting rooms. You know, if we wanted to record a podcast in the middle of Newcastle, we could and want a guest was face to face, we could get one for a couple of hours, no problem. So there's no necessity for this anymore. So I think I've took that on board, and like our next move, I'm gonna see if I can dress up a space behind, because we only really need it for this. And I've found this personally great, because I don't have to travel into the city centre, and neither do you, and we don't have to, like, you know, we can do it like this, then just shut the door on it when we're finished and have a cup of tea and chill. There's no like 2-hour commute, or going through Newcastle at night where there's loads of people like smashed out of their heads and potentially getting chinned and stuff, you know. It's brilliant. So you're quite right. Also, I think like Brexit, I said on a podcast back then before, I was like, you know, the Tories are wanting to do this because of the EU Working Time Directive and all of the things that they can get rid of, so employers can just basically rip it out of people and do whatever they want. And like the EU's far from perfect, but they have much better labour laws, you know. And it seems to me like the Tories are like basically using this majority to strip away as many rights as they possibly can. Sorry. And I think that's something that we will be keeping close eye on in our new role as watchdog of the internet. And we'll be talking about, because I mean, just back to like sort of, I did actually listen to some of the competition the BBC shows, and it is such a narrow range of opinion. It's such a safe way of talking about things, and it really doesn't seem to reflect the working class people's lives, or the middle class people as well. Like more increasingly now that the cost of living's going up, people are fast realizing that, like, you know, working in its current format is not the one. It's not doing it, is it?
Yeah. And it's important, I think, that you mentioned that, not just the working classes, but the middle classes as well. And on the anti-work subreddit, I think the slogan that they use, which I absolutely love, is unemployment for all, not just the rich.
I nearly lost that brew there. So true, though, isn't it?
Which I really, really love. But I think, I think it probably is worth us pointing out at this point as well, is that, anti-work will mean different things to different people. And some people are just like, actually, no, I want to reject this completely. I want to spend my time, being self-sufficient, walking in the woods and looking at moss. Sorry, that's just me.
No, it's not just you. Trust me.
But there's other people as well who are kind of saying, look, we're not saying giving up work altogether. What we're saying is that the amount of time that we spend at work is completely unrealistic, and we need to reduce that. So I think people are coming from different angles there with that.
Definitely. I mean, it's why I recorded a little while ago with the 4-day week campaign. Oh, by the way, I didn't tell you this. Got one lined up with UBI Lab Wales. And these were the people who are instrumental in bringing about the world's biggest UBI experiment by the Mark Drakeford government. So I will let you know when that's coming. I'm working out a date and a time with them just now. That all happened today, so I just didn't have time to let you know. But I'm letting you know live, direct on the Cow Daily. So I'm really looking forward. They're bloody heroes. Like the fact that they've managed to achieve what they've achieved by going through all those parliamentary processes and whatnot. So shouts to Jonathan and also me colleague James, and brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I've got all the respect in the world. Now, on the anti-work thing, I think some employers and organisations and governments are getting onto this, aren't they? They're understanding which way the wind's blowing and they're getting in early. So on the screen for audio listeners, a headline: a restaurant in San Francisco that has a no-tip policy and instead shares profits with its staff says it wasn't hit by the labor shortage. I wonder why. The caption for the picture says Zazie has a no-tip policy and instead shares profits with staff. What do you think of that?
Wow, I've not heard that one. I've heard of, a lot of places just putting up their hourly wage, but by quite a bit, particularly in the sort of food industries. And funnily enough, they are not hit by labor shortages either. It's amazing what can happen when you actually,
isn't that strange,
pay people a wage that they can kind of live on.
Wow. Who knew that by not totally exploiting people and drilling them into the ground, that staff would want to stay because they feel valued and they can actually pay for their essentials in life and maybe have something left over to have fun. Isn't that what work's supposed to be about?
Yeah, and this anti-work movement as well, I see a lot of American posters on it as well. And things are dire here in the UK, they really are. But I think I didn't realize when I read some of what they're kind of going through with this, just how bad it is in terms of, not having things like holiday and like paid holiday and stuff, where you find it quite shocking, really. Totally. I know, there's lots of jobs in the UK, things like 0-hour contracts and things like that make it,
which really should be outlawed, by the way, like they've done in New Zealand and other places.
No, but it's just kind of like in the States, how it was just kind of like standard practice, and how you see the, I think that a lot of the anti-work is been kicked back against these, kind of dystopian nightmares dressed up as feel-good stories. And it's things like, staff donate their holiday, their holiday days, donate to colleague whose child has leukemia. And it's like, why did they need to do that? It's nice that they did and that they were looking out for them, but why did this person not have protections which would allow them to take time off, to look after their sick child or to have treatment themselves sometimes as well? It's the same with the the healthcare system they have over there. Like, ours isn't perfect, but it makes me just realize how much we need to protect it. Protect the NHS, all of that, the same kind of thing, because it is quite shocking what can happen to people who don't have any money, or who actually, you know, is where healthcare is concerned, who aren't obscenely rich, because
Indeed.
you know, even if you're quite comfortable, it'll just take one serious illness which lasts more than a couple of months.
Well, I know this only too well,
ruin
and I'll speak a little bit on that. As you know, like I was doing all right before I got like done in with my back. As a self-employed person, the first rule of self-employment club is make sure you've got a war chest behind you for a rainy day. Now I did, and it didn't like it lasted, but that was me like really being frugal. So the before the spinal surgery and then afterwards, and it took longer to get better. It was, I mean, we ended up having that New Year castle party, you remember, and that would have like really funded Milk the Cow for a long time, and like had to cancel that, had to refund everybody, which was an absolute nightmare because the operation didn't go as well as I'd hoped, and these things occur, you know. So I, as you know, have took as a long time to get fully like fit and healthy again, and then I got ill with shingles. So then that was and then I got after that PHN, which is like nerve damage. So that was another year, and I've been living basically hand to mouth, haven't I? And it's been horrid. So I'm an example of what you speak of, and I mean that's not something that like I ever want to repeat. And this is me now trying to rebuild my life and existence and everything like that. And it's been horrific, quite frankly, to not put a finer point on it. And without you and other people, I don't know if I'd still have been around, because for very practical reasons, it's like really hard to live when you haven't got much. I've had to rely on family and friends really, and just to like try and get through and hustle and whatever, which has just been like, what the hell? Because the pandemic kicked in, so you can't put events on, can you? So like, you know, you're not making from that. And then obviously I was ill, brain fog, couldn't write, couldn't do anything, had to take a break from social media because of a stressor, doctor's orders, all of this. So if you've already spent your rainy day money as a self-employed person, what do you do? Also, I didn't get any money from the government either about the pandemic funds. That was an absolute body blow and a snap jaw. So it was like, what the hell am I supposed to do here? But you just got to keep going. You got to keep turning up, and good things will happen. So, well, for most people, for some people, that's not the case, is it? I have to consider myself incredibly lucky to be sat here talking to you all now.
No, same. And I think on the flip side of the anti-work thing, you know, you also see the whole, you know, the whole hustle culture and the grind, glorifying the grind, whatever the hell that is. But I think actually, you know, although there is a presence of that, you are seeing people who are kind of realizing that actually society, it grades us on what our perceived productivity is, and actually that isn't good enough anymore. And you know, just wanting something a bit more, realizing that it's a lie that we've been told time and time again, that, you know, the harder you work, you know, you can achieve absolutely anything. Well, no, not everyone can. It's a lot of it is to do with your connections, with, you know, kind of wealth, you know, inheritance, all the rest of it. And there's people who are working 2-3 jobs, working all the hours God sends, and they're still only just covering the rent and bills because of how much everything is going up at the moment.
Without a doubt. And, you know, I've done a bit on the cost of living crisis the other week. So if people want to go back to that show, please do. YouTube, Apple Podcasts and Spotify, you'll find that. Also as well, I just want to bring in some of the coverage from the Tory graph this time. And what they're saying is they're clearly on the back foot. Look at this utter propaganda. Wales' Soviet experiment with the 4-day week will backfire. The danger is that people will soon object to the very concept of work itself. Listen, Tory graph, it's not because of Mark Drakeford and the Welsh government. It's because the people that you write articles for, the people who are running companies, have been bleeding the working classes and the middle classes dry for decades. decades. And that worked when there was readily available credit and people could afford to live and have a bit left over. That's all over with. So, Alice, clearly the establishment, because the Telegraph is the establishment's mouthpiece alongside like others, but this one really is. I mean, Boris Johnson said to rule by what they're saying in the Tory graph. He's trying to keep them happy and appease them. They're clearly on the back foot because like this is like Pravda-esque levels of propaganda from the capitalist class. Soviet experiment. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's Soviet experiment. It's just the very wording of it. It couldn't be more. They couldn't be more blatant if they tried. And I know that's that does still work on a lot of people. Just shoving the word Soviet or the word communist, and everyone would go, "Oh, bad." I think that is starting to wear thin with people now. I think before it would have like a really visceral reaction in people and go, "Oh no, that's." I think kind of the way Corbyn was talked about during the last general election was kind of proof of that. But I do think it was used so much, it's starting to backfire on them a little bit. And people are realizing that they will use that kind of wording to kind of steer you away from that opinion. Like, this is dangerous. Over a 4-day week, they want to thank the lucky stars that some people are only asking for a 4-day.
Just a bit. The anger of people at the minute. Once the penny's dropping more and more, they need to really watch what they're saying.
Yeah. Absolutely, because people want to spend time with their loved ones. People don't want to be working, to spend most of that money on asking other people to look after their children. They want to, because the cost of childcare is absolutely,
that's obscene.
like, absolutely nuts as well. I didn't realize this until recently, when obviously because I don't have kids, but when somebody else had like kind of said how much it is, and when you're like, what?
Yeah, man.
like, oh my god, it's absolutely ridiculous, and that was just for the childcare alone. Not all the other costs that you have to actually raise your children. It's like, it's just, people realize we're being conned. This is absolutely ridiculous. Why are we doing this?
This is the beautiful thing, and it is beautiful. The fact that people are now realizing it. We've been banging on about this stuff for years. I mean, we thought capitalism was crap before it was cool, but now it seems to have just been spreading. Let's name what it is. It's capitalism. It is the version of capitalism that exists now is just, it hasn't been fit for purpose for a long time, but it's been just enough for a lot of people to like just get by in a little bit more, and then kind of like watch Benefits Britain and think that that's everybody else but them. Mm-hmm. But now, during the pandemic, so many people having to claim universal credit, and like a lot of the taboo of that all is gone now. People like got the furlough scheme, which is just basically a government benefit. The government were paying for your life. And we're through the looking glass on those type of things now, I feel. And I'm really interested in terms of like watching how this is affecting society and also how people think and feel. So it's quite interesting. Just to like, you go ahead before I end this segment.
Yeah, I was just really going to say, I think if anybody is kind of unclear about it, about how dangerous it actually is, look at the history of the 5-day work movement, and you will hear exactly the same kind of things that were said, when people, were expected to kind of work every single day. That, that was sent. They used to say exactly the same kind of things, and that the people campaigning for the 5-day week were troublemaking anarchists.
Quite. And aren't they the terrible ones?
To the point where they actually killed, workplace organizers for doing that. But actually, it's something we really take for granted because that's normal now. But actually, it should be less again, is really my feelings on it.
Quite right. Bit of hope to see we're through. What we got in the Independent: Belgium civil servants given right to disconnect from work after hours, describing stress and burnout as real diseases. Minister says law is needed to combat the problem. So great news from Belgium, like things across the EU happening in that regard. Real life examples coming in left and right. The Welsh devolved government doing great things within Britain. Scottish government also looking very closely at this type of stuff. Some great people doing great things like UBI Lab Wales, who we've got coming on soon. Like there is hope to be had. A groundswell of opinion towards wanting to be around friends and family more instead of being around the work family. Like all of that kind of carry on and get in the bin. Because the top and bottom of it is when people stop drinking that particular level of Kool-Aid and realize like being around your people means your people. Now, I've met some great people through work. There's people who I'm still in touch with who I don't work anymore and we're really close and good friends. But there's other people I ended up working from home because I couldn't stand to be sat next to them. You know, like, and now imagine doing that for most of your waking hours in an office or a factory or a warehouse or anything of that nature. It saps your will to live. So this feels like a great reckoning, like a reevaluation of what's important. And I think if that does come out of the pandemic, then what a great thing. Because we're all looking around for some levels of hope, because the fact that, like, you know, clinically vulnerable people have just been thrown to the wolves, and like we're looking the other way because like all of these people have died just so Boris Johnson, it appears, can save his job. That's a whole set of factors coming together, which could be really rather combustible unless they start throwing with some bones to shut us up. Because I've been through what it means to not be able to like earn money, and it's horrific. So when you get close to having nothing to lose, well, anything can happen. So that's anti-work. So please, my good friends, go to the links in the description and sign up to the Cow Daily mailing list. I've not been as active on there as I might like, but it's just kind of like when you start a new thing, it's like a pyramid. There's all these tasks at the bottom, and I just have not got to it. And I want to do it properly. So we've had like 1 or 2 out, and more will come. But please keep signing up to it, because that's where all the gold shall appear. So also make sure that when you check your spam boxes as well, because some people have been getting it in there. So if you just say like accept from MTC mailing list, Cow Daily mailing list, great times. And also, if you could, please share the stream. We're about to do something on Darren Grimes, the king of the Northeast. Are you ready? Have you strapped yourself in? Actually, no, before we do, let's take some comments on that last section.
Okay, yeah.
Betty Whitehead, totally pointless working when you can't afford to leave your children with minders. Absolutely.
Yeah.
How ye? I bid you all adieu. I'm off to watch my sister's kids while she's off work nights. Peace and love, everybody. Big up yourself, my friend. All the very best to you.
Yeah.
Paul Veronica, mobile phones have made things a nightmare for being contactable outside of work.
Very
exactly. We need to leave these things in the drawer and actually focus on the people who are wrapped around with. It's a problem in most households with kids, partners, whatever. We've like, they're designed for dopamine hits. They're designed to keep you addicted to things. So only ever look at them when we're on live, or if you're looking at our YouTube or Spotify and you get notifications from us. Everything else is bad. Also, Paul, get well soon, mate. I know you've got COVID and you're on day 5, I believe. We've been talking in the private chat, but big up yourself, mate, and we really appreciate all the support from you and like all the patrons. And don't die, because we need you. No, just messing, mate. You know how we are.
Feel better soon.
Feel better soon, brother. Please do. Right, that'll do. Betty Whitehead, triangles, definitely. Triangles. Right, so you ready for a little bit of the Dasworth Grimes?
Go on then.
Strap yourself in, everybody. Check it out.
News for Real Britain every Saturday and Sunday from 2 p.m. A news hour that comes with a trigger warning. Scorching hot opinion with prominent guests saying the unsayable, and a little bit of weekend fun thrown in. Unlike other broadcasters, I won't be forgetting what the B in our name stands for. So Howie in for Real Britain Saturday and Sunday from 2 p.m.
So Howie in Away in. I won't be forgetting to do something that's blatantly trolling you what the B in our name stands for. Right, like in the comments, we'll come back to you at the end. Tell me what the B in GB News stands for, and we'll pull a few of them up at the end. Alice, what did you think of this little bell end?
Sorry, I think it gets funnier every time I watch it, actually, but it really does. But every time I do, all I can think of is from like 30 years ago at the end of Biker Grove, when I used to hear, these new Biker Grove books are available from all good bookshops. Literally all I can think of is
Fraser, my office now. You've been putting out thinly veiled far-right propaganda on your...
Oh my God.
Where's all that dark money come from you've got hidden under the pool table, allegedly? Is it from Russia? Did it come in the port at Blythe?
Oh, there's just so much.
Allegedly.
Like, where do you start? I mean, is the like whenever I see Darren Grimes, and particularly in that video, he's just like, you know, you can just imagine him like being, you know, some guy who like cons elderly widows out of their money by pretending to be a medium and holding fake seances.
He's downstairs. He's downstairs. But if you give us his savings, he might come upstairs. He's downstairs.
There's so many, but all GB like adverts I find are like this. There's just something so slightly ridiculous about them that I can't believe that the people making them aren't taking the piss slightly. I mean, like his laptop isn't even on. He's like kind of doing all this with the laptop. It isn't switched on. It's just absolutely ludicrous, isn't it?
It's absolutely belter as well. Like, I mean, that and whole vibe, because we're from the northeast as well, and he is as well, allegedly. And well, he's from Consett in County Durham, where my dad was born, actually. And I cannot stand them. They're doing all this like, we'll say the things that nobody can say on our like multi-million-pound platform that's funded by God knows who, because we're all being cancelled on this massive platform. We'll say the things that'll get we're told off by the internet. No, you won't. No, you won't. That really, you can tell they're scraping the bottom of the barrel at GBB's, like, because they didn't include him in the first like lot of like people. And also the like, you know, when they took on Andrew Neil and all that, everybody was like, oh haha, Darren Grimes didn't get his job that he's been like bootlicking for like the last few years. But now they've wheeled him in. But they've slapped them on at 2 o'clock on a Saturday and 2 o'clock on a Sunday, which is basically the graveyard shift, because Saturday everybody's like going to the football or with their family or going to IKEA or whatever. And on Sundays, people are around. They're not like. Could you imagine like at family gatherings, people sticking his show on, and on he comes and he's like giving it up. Like, I mean, it is. Have you ever watched it, by the way?
I've not with Darren Grimes on it. I've watched some of GB News, which it's kind of like weird. It's like kind of, all I can describe it if you haven't seen it. It's basically like if the BTN channel, the British Television Network, in V for Vendetta, was a real channel on the set of El Dorado. Is the only way I can describe it.
Yeah.
Like
Northfire TV, and it's just
everything's a bit wobbly, and it's like, yeah, it's when you think of the money that was thrown at it, kind of what the production ended up being on it, just something doesn't add up, basically.
Knowing glance to camera, wry grin, the left. On the end of everything, it's like, and I blame, that's right, everybody, the left. Wild starry eyes to camera, cut to GBB's graphics. That's basically what it is. Everything's the left. The left are coming to steal your pension. The left.
I remember Darren Grimes when he was a Remain campaigner, though.
Well, he was a Lib Dem.
Yeah,
He was a
yeah.
Lib Dem, and then he did a 180 because, like a lot of people, like they saw Brexit as a way to build a career. I think, you know, I mean, the lad's 28 now, so he must have been early 20s when you know, the Brexit campaigns were happening. He set up some, I can't remember what the name of it was, like B Leave. That was it. It was called B Leave, so it was meant to be like directed towards like young, like Brexit focused people. So he's all like evolved that now and dovetailed it into this latest grift with GB News, and they must be paying him 50 pence in a Kit Kat, like, because like obviously they didn't take him up from the off. And if you've went from like Lib Dem, which is basically like, you know, it's like soft left on certain things and quite right wing on others, but now you're just like completely a far right grifter. It's a bit of a strange turnaround of events for the kid. You ever seen him sitting in a Newcastle United shirt either?
Yes, I have actually. Yeah.
As somebody who grew up supporting Newcastle United, I'm more of a Gateshead lad now. I go to Gateshead, and that was for reasons of capitalism. But like, you know, I'll always have a soft spot. You always will. Growing up in the northeast, like around the Newcastle Gateshead area, I can't not. You know, it's even in spite of the whole Saudi thing. I mean, Darren's gay, and he's like really started like since the Saudi takeover wearing the Newcastle United shirt all the time. And I'm like, if you claim to care about things, why aren't you speaking about the elephant in the room? Like, the Saudi Public Investment Fund bankrolls the club. Now, I'm not wishing to like piss on anybody's bonfire. It's one of the other aspects I've really enjoyed seeing is how it's like cheered people up in the area. And whether you like that or not, like working class people, a lot of people, it's all they've got. And during the Mike Ashley era, it was like depressing. So I'm not hating, even though I've got huge problems with the Saudi regime, of course, because I'm on the left and we really care. But like, Grimes is full of shit. As a gay man, how he's not like saying anything about this is just crazy. If he like, you know, he's claiming to be able to like not be able to say stuff and whatever, you'd expect him to be like, you know, well, this isn't great at my so-called football club.
But actually, the thing that you just said about him isn't even a jibe. It's completely true about, you know, oh, it's the left. It's the left. That's not an exaggeration. If you go on on Darren Grimes' Twitter.
Oh, no, I know. It's like, that's
you know,
what I'm
just
saying.
in case anybody else is watching, kind of thinking that was just a bit of a piss take. It actually isn't. He usually does not stipulate who he thinks the left actually are.
Oh, no, it's just this whole like sort of like thing, the left. Anything that goes wrong, that's because of the left. I mean, there was somebody like, not Grimes, but like somebody, Robert Colville, which I think he writes for the Times. He wrote an article today, like about like Russia and everything, and the impending World War III. And it was like, can you imagine what this would have been like if Jeremy Corbyn was Prime Minister? Think yourself lucky. And it's all this like crazy, like batshit talk. Like, it would have, I dare say, would have been like heading more towards peace than anything else, you know. But now it seems like it's like we talked about the Lib Dems and Grimes before, like they seem to be very anti-war when war is talked about in a vacuum, but when there's a prospect of war, they just like transmogrify into like sort of war. We've got to fight this just war because it's now a just war. So I'm really like aghast at what these people are saying in regarding the war drums being like. I'm in Shetland now, and I've legitimately been looking up at the sky today to see if there's any flyovers from Russian jets, because last week there was like the nudging in towards, it was in international airspace, but they came as close as possible just north of Shetland, and the RAF went out and intercepted them and like obviously got them off.
Jesus Christ.
Like, I'm sitting here, and this is like, you know, like what people don't realize is, right, Shetland is closer to Norway than it is to the north coast of Scotland.
Yeah.
And just beyond that is Finland. And I read a thread by like a Finnish leftist, he called himself. He's got a bit of a following over there. And he did an English thread, and he was talking about how Putin's like really dark speech yesterday was like, and he's coming out and saying that he thinks it was a mistake that they allowed like the former Soviet like republics, or before that, the likes of Finland, where he is, which isn't that far from Norway, which isn't a hop, step, and a jump from here, to have independence and have their own sovereignty. So, like, we could have, like, it's not beyond the realms that tanks could go into Finland, you know, and like, there's not beyond the realms that, like, there could be a Falkland Islands situation where I am. So, like, the likes of, like, Grimes and others need to shut their friggin' mouths in terms of, like, war and whatever, because you know not what you speak of.
No, absolutely not. And there's a lot of that going about, actually, and on, you know, right across the political spectrum, actually, which is really terrifying. That seem to think that it's something that we should be doing.
Well, they're trying to paint like, it's the left, they're all pro Putin. Whereas, like, previous to all of this, it was like Donald Trump and like this whole Trumpian far right sort of gang who was all like, he's a really strong leader. It's something that we should aspire to. Now they've done a 180 and it's apparently all us that's pro Russia. Like, we weren't the ones like Boris Johnson giving like ex-KGB agents lordships, like for money. There's also like something else to just be aware of. And I didn't think we were going to go off into the war stuff, but here we are. That's the podcast. Look at all of the Russian oligarch money in London, which has overinflated the price of housing. Now, what we were talking about earlier, cost of living, anti-work. If I was Vladimir Putin, which I'm not, but I am on the left, unlike him, I would have spent quite a while putting money in and overinflating house prices, and then what do we? Yes, I see your face. What do we see now? Like, basically, what sanctions can really be put on? Because what happens if they all pull their money out of London at the same time? The economy of Britain will crash. Because think of all of the money being wiped off the top of the housing market. Now, over time, that would be obviously better because, like, you know, things might come down to a natural level. But think of the negative equity that millions of people would go into straight away on top of a cost of living crisis compounded by Brexit and the pandemic. Now, there's a alleged talk of like the shenanigans around Brexit and Russian money. And like, you know, there was allegations made towards Darren Grimes, which is this section. Like, and I must stress at this point, lawyers, allegations. I don't know either way. I don't know either way at all. But what I'm saying is there's an interesting circle of cash in the whole follow the money thing in the situation that we're in now. Also, if you remember that picture a few years ago before Boris Johnson was Prime Minister, where he went away to Italy, to Tuscany, and went to a villa of some rich Russian dude whose name I can't remember. And he was seen at an airport looking disheveled, like he was on a come down, and he didn't have security with him or anything. So
I remember that.
Yeah, think of these things, man. So what, now he's Prime Minister, can he actually do? He can talk tough. What can he actually do? Because there's so much money from Russia, China, you name it, in the British property market, specifically focused around London and the southeast. So if that was like, you can't just like put sanctions on and tell them to get the money out, like across the board, maybe some of it and whatever. But Putin waves his hand and tells these oligarchs to like get it out. They could crash the market. Crazy times, eh? I'd just like to say also, Vladimir, or anybody who works for you, if you're listening, if you could just hang off invading Shetland before next week, because we're getting off. So I'd rather just like take me chances on the mainland of the UK. I really don't want that to happen either, because Shetland's got a big place in my heart. But if it was to happen, I'm on the left. All right.
And don't forget to like and subscribe, Vladimir.
How we in, but later when we're done. How we in? I hope they get Grimes first, and no, I don't. I do. Anyway, that's Darren Grimes and GBB. Stay tuned for more of that kind of thing. Let's take some comments. What we got? Stephen says Putin would take over the world if he could.
Well, he might try. What was he? Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is it, right? What Jez saying? Putin is a bell end. Mind, Boris's sanctions will do less damage to Russia than his Brexit is doing to Britain. Agree with everything other than Vladimir Putin's a bell end. That's scurrilous. And if anybody from Russia happens to be listening to a top 10 podcast in the UK, the only independent one, that's Jez Hunt of Ancestor Leathercrafts. That's his fault. That's not ours. We didn't say that, Vladimir. All the best to you and everything you do, because we're on the left. Knowing glance the camera. Michael Sheldon. Not actually true. Sheldon is 170 kilometres from the north of Scotland, 220 kilometres from the west of Norway. It is, however, closer to Bergen than it is to Aberdeen. He's actually correct. He's actually right. And live on a podcast, I'm more than happy to correct myself. But it's close enough, hair-splitting git. No, he's right. I'm just trying to salve my ego. Hey, I tell you what, it's closer to Russia than you are, unless you're in Vladivostok, pal. That's all I've got. That's money saying to you. So, right, what we got? Betty Whitey's saying it's going to crash anyway. Dark, but you're probably right. Right, let's see if we've got any more. Any more?
I can't even disagree. It's just it's like, isn't this?
Well, Veronica, he's a wannabe edgelord and inserts jokes about edging. Right, okay, I didn't actually know you were going to say that. I should probably read things. He's clearly riddled with COVID, and he's suddenly overcome a little bit of light homophobia there. Paul, no, sitting there in his cottage.
No, I don't think. Yeah, I think as part of the LGBT community, we don't claim Darren Grimes.
Yeah. I'm still reeling from Michael Sheldon's corrections there. He's dead right. I mean, he's 50 kilometers right, which, what's 50 kilometers between friends? A hell of a bloody lot if you're sitting hoping the Russian Air Force don't invade in the middle of the night. Let me tell you. So anyway, please do become a patron and come into that private chat forum and correct us because we want to do better. So patreon.com/cowdaily. Get involved. Help us to rise. Really be happy if you'd subscribe to the Cow Daily YouTube channel also. But before we leave you, good people, the salve to the forehead of the world in this dystopia, that is positive news. Alice, you've got a belter for this week. So, BBC News, housing, fairy tale estate aimed at keeping young people local. Nice bit of hope coming. Nestled in the mountains of North Wales and surrounded by rivers and waterfalls are a series of unique properties described as the stuff of fairy tales, but perhaps more unusual than the vivid blue doors that unite them is the fact that those living there aren't wealthy individuals or holidaymakers, but millennials paying cheap rents. The Brondonwow estate, sorry Welsh people, Jez, if you could help with pronounce that, which boasts views of Snowdon, has been made possible by a radical housing scheme. Its foundations were laid by the architect behind the nearby enchanting Italian-style village of Portmeirion, which I've been to 4 times, by the way. Sir Clough William Ellis wanted something different than to leave his estate of about 50 historical properties to descendants. So he set up a charitable trust in the 1970s, which now helps families in the area to find affordable homes to rent, which is actually proof positive that not all rich people are bad. So, Alice, you've got a bit more on this forward. Do you want to tell her?
Yeah, I think I wanted this in positive news, really. I think this
is really positive news, dude.
No, but it kind of struck a nerve, I think, with me in particular because I grew up in Cumbria, and I think kind of the things that you've seen in Wales happen with housing, particularly with people, second homes and the price of houses there is very, very similar. And but people like myself and lots of other, I know, young people from poorer backgrounds just literally ended up moving away because they wouldn't be able to afford to live there, or kind of living in sort of massive shared housing rather than having their own properties. So it was really, really nice to see that. I would like to, but what they're doing in Wales, I would prefer it if it was all its social housing market rather than it said, I think it was somewhere between market value and social housing. Bring it down to social housing, really. But it's really, really on the right track. It's something that's very badly needed. It's not, it's the second home things, but it's also the Airbnb movements that are kind of really moving things completely out of control in certain areas, and like places like Bowness and Windermere, absolutely ridiculous in terms of just, you know, not even able to kind of find somewhere decent to rent, let alone buy,
Yeah.
because of people like snapping up houses and then putting it out for an Airbnb. And I was reading that article about what they're doing there, and it was just the properties are really decent as well. You know, it's actually decent housing that's being
Lovely
provided for them.
cottages, yeah. Beautiful.
Absolutely gorgeous. And I think it was just like reading from, there was like a young couple who'd like moved into one. They'd managed to get one of these properties. They don't live, you know, they grew up like really, really close by, and they didn't even know it was there. It was somebody else had like told them about it, and they ended up applying, and then they were kind of given this cottage, and they were, you know, they were asking what that meant to them. And it was just, you know, this young lad kind of saying like what a difference to his mental health that it had meant, like being able to have this lovely property with, you know, surrounded by woodland with a bit of nature, but also that he wasn't spending like almost everything he earned just on rent. You know, was able, it gave him a bit of breathing space for, you know, to pay for bills and, you know, and kind of enjoy his life a little bit. And that's kind of going back to the whole anti-work thing that we were talking about there. It's talking about, you know, decent housing is suicide prevention. You know, it's when we're talking about improving our mental health services, it's not just the actual health services we need to improve. It's about improving housing. It's about, you know, improving, you know, the environment around us. That's really what keeps people healthy. And it had made such a massive, massive difference to this couple. And it was just, I really want to see more of that springing around, because
Totally,
it's
man.
badly needed.
Well, it's allowed the guy to set up his own eco house building company because of the lower rent, and you wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise. So you see, like the impact that these things can have, like the dovetail with what we've been talking about earlier about like cost of living, rents, and everything of that nature. It's enabling people to think, well, I can afford to start a business and I can afford for it to fail, because some businesses will fail and it's a risk. And these type of things keep people stuck in jobs they don't necessarily want to be in. Now, if we start measuring the success of a country, not just on economics, but also on happiness. I mean, you know, Bhutan is classed as the happiest country on earth, and they measure like their success on the happiness of the population. And New Zealand's about to bring in like a New Zealand happiness rating, and a lot of their policy is going to be shaped around how they bring that about. And these are the things that we're seeing in other countries. I mean, I think the English hellscape, we shouldn't get too like sucked into that, because there are good things happening around the world. And if we see these things working, then the likes of the Tory graph can't do like some kind of like Soviet headline thing against Drakeford without people going, well, hold on a minute. No, like New Zealand's soft left at best. And they're, you know, their people are happier, other countries as well. So the more we see real life tangible examples, the more pressure that can be put on governments, but also potentially any kind of like new movement within this country start up with these things as examples. Because one of the problems with the sort of Corbynism movement, whatever, in spite of the 2019 and 2017 manifestos being fully costed by they were signed off by, I think it was 163 economists. One of them was a Nobel Prize winner, maybe he's more than one. And still the press were like, Soviets, this, that, and the third. Well, this is like, you know, this whole movement against so-called experts, isn't it? But if we get these real life examples like the Welsh UBI experiment, 4-day week experiment, things in New Zealand, Belgium, which we talked about earlier, with people not where the bosses aren't allowed to contact civil servants after work. More and more we chip away at this edifice where things could be rebalanced more. So this is one of the things why we do positive news. There is hope. Please hold on. If you're having a bad time, please do. I mean, like, we're positive proof of like by holding on and just keep turning up. We've been through some shit these past few years. like really hard times. And I mean, you're not talking about like how things have turned around for you. Yeah, maybe you won't because it's stuff in your private life, but you know, I've been really chuffed to see how your life is just getting better, and mine is, and you know, slowly we win the race. And I mean, speaking to myself, I'm just blessed to be alive, man. Like,
no, it is. I'm just laughing because we're talking about that, and yet I was crying on FaceTime yesterday when we were having a
yes, but it was just to me, so that's fine. It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I had a bad day yesterday, but
you did. But today's been better, and we
now.
spoke for a good hour this morning, and it was like I could really see a real like lift in you, and like,
yeah.
I think that's what happens when you've been through traumatic stuff. You almost can't let go of it because you don't want to believe that the good things that are happening are real.
Yeah.
And I think that's something to bear in mind. So if you're listening out there and you're going through a bad one, you know, just hold on and just know that there's good people out there who give more than two shits about you. Shall I have one more before we say goodbye? One more piece of positivity.
Oh yeah.
Attack on woke charities has backfired, campaigners say. Exclusive right-wing campaign prompted charities to defend their work, leading to rise in public support. A wave of attacks on woke charities by right-wing politicians has backfired, generating an outpouring of public support for the targeted charities and helping drive a surge in social justice activism, say campaigners. An annual survey of social campaigning suggests many charities feel increasingly emboldened to speak out on contested issues, including race, immigration, and the environment, despite attacks they feel are designed to intimidate them into silence. Ha! Ha!
What
Strike us down and we become more powerful than you can possibly imagine, innit?
Yeah, and what's hilarious is actually like kind of the two main examples I can think of. You know, they're not woke charities, whatever that is. One is the National Trust, and I think the reason that they got a load of backlash, you know, kind of from sort of right-wing trolls was because, you know, they sort of like acknowledged that some of the properties that they manage, you know, were initially funded you know, via the slave trade, and it wasn't anything that radical. It was just kind of acknowledging with some and kind of had some events around that, and that was about it. And then there was the RNLI. Now, the RNLI's never had a change in policy whatsoever. They've just kept on not letting people drown. That was really like
the monsters,
you know, and rescuing people and not holding up a Dulux color chart to the people's skin when they see people drowning. That is literally all that happened. And they got like this massive backlash because of, you know, saying they would, you know, assist refugees out of the water. Well, yeah, but that wasn't a change in policy. They've always been the same. And I just love that actually the best revenge that people have gotten that is that's actually generated more income to be able to do that. I think it's
a beautiful thing. And like these are the things that aren't getting as much airtime as they should. There are so many positive things out there, and that's why we decided to do positive news soon after starting this new project. That is the Cow Daily. Simply because we need to be talking about this stuff alongside all the Dark Lord of the Sith stuff that's going on. The Dark Lords of the Sith made a move against the National Trust and the RNLI and other things, and people have went, nah, no, we can't have that. We're going to just like fund them now. 2 fingers right up to you. I bet you the Darren Grimeses of this world aren't talking about these type of things in the way that they should be. It'd be like, all these woke people funding these woke charities, and it'll just be some horrific nonsense. But the more and more the tomes and outlets of the far right are being made to look bloody stupid. It's like more and more the things that they've been crying for on the far right to come to fruition have started happening. And the top bottom of it is, as soon as the economic crisis reaches the middle class, which it has throughout history, it has proven that positive change can occur, because quite often people don't want to rock the status quo until the status quo is changed and it rocks their world. Just a fact. It's a sad aspect of human nature. People sometimes play within themselves a little bit, and it doesn't mean that they lack empathy. It's just like they're off grinding, hustling, whatever it is they do. And now it's more and more being shown that that's like something that is a fool's errand, because before you know it, the people up at the top, it's that last days of Rome stuff, isn't it? Like, that's what I see with the government.
Yeah.
They're just trying any old move because they're gassed up on the success that they see Brexit has been, because for them it is. But let's not forget William, that was his dad, Jacob Rees-Mogg, the haunted Victorian pencil, who I think they must have styled Darren Grimes on in the GBB's makeup room. Did you see the state of him in that suit, man? He was like Poundland Rees-Mogg, but like Howie in. You'll never hear Jacob say that, will you?
Howie.
He moved his investment fund to Ireland, to Dublin, his hedge fund. Like, that's not being reported as it should be. And why did he do that? So he can still access the markets via Frankfurt and all of that right there. We've done a big show this week. It's been a long one. Any final thoughts, Springer? Here's
No.
by the way, that was me dog bursting into the room. Jeb, what are you doing? The heads are going to roll again. How on earth has he escaped? Carry on.
He's a sheepdog. That's just what they do.
He's for the glue factory. If he does that again, watch. Bursting in and nearly jumped out of me skin. It's not what you want. I think that is a storm outside. He hates the wind. So, anyway, got any final thoughts there, Snarf? It's at the end of Thundercats. It's been like a bit of a theme, hasn't it?
Snarf is like, come on, man.
The Orko, then? That's the one who does the Springer's final thought, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I do like Orko. No, that's I've really enjoyed myself today, and thank you everybody who has commented. And as always, we'll see you next Tuesday.
Yes, we will. And that's not a euphemism for CUNT. See you next Tuesday. She's not calling you cunts, by the way. I've got to end the entire show without saying it. As ever, some comments. Let's see what people are saying. Let's see. Let's have a look. B62 Boom 1, the whole reason they are allowed remains a charity and not government run is they don't want politicians having any say in their work. I've nothing but complete admiration for their work. We echo that, my friend.
Absolutely.
All the very best.
Definitely.
Angie Shandy Martin, back again, mate. Really nice to see you back after that lovely comment last week. Thank you too. Definitely, my friend. All the thanks are with you for being here. Really loving that. Joanne, it's a shame we only get the cow daily for 90 minutes a week. Keeps me going. That's lush, mate. We'll see you in the private chat forum at some point in the next 24 hours, I would imagine. We've really enjoyed it, haven't we? Like that when Joanne has told us that it was actually popping, we went in and it's just like, oh man, this is cool. Please, hold on, this one I've just had caught my eye. Steve Jackson, don't flick Grimes on us again, and I'll be back next week. Take care, all. You got it. You won't be back next week, but you know he's going to do some like. We just don't like him because we're from the Northeast and he's just an absolute, like, when there's somebody from where you're from and they're just a dickhead, it's just like you've kind of got to. You get drawn into him like some like dark. It's like the Sarlacc pit in Star Wars where you're being drawn into it and you're going to, like, if you go after him, like, you're going to be like digested for 1,000 years in the Sarlacc pit, but you still will do that just so you can slap him about the head a little bit. He's a disgrace to our area, a disgrace to the town where my father was born. So on the way out, as ever, if you could become a patron and join us, patreon.com/milkthecow.com, patreon.com/cow daily. Also on the new platforms, Apple Podcasts and Spotify, a 5-star review and a nice rating at the minute will go some way to overturning the BBC's Dark Empire. Particularly want people in the BBC who actually do have to listen to what these plucky young upstarts are. Not quite so young these days, are my dear, but we're young at heart. Only independent podcast in the top 10 right now. Barrow, Henning Barrow. Happy days. Any final thoughts there, Schnarf and Ork? Ork and Schnarf.
No, I'm just putting an end to this now.
Just end it. End it now. This will do. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.